In this video, we will talk about what are case frameworks and how to smartly use frameworks in consulting case interviews to ace the case. If you're going into consulting, I'm sure you've heard of the term framework, which is a predetermined approach or a set of questions to solve any type of case. I often think about frameworks as a list of questions that, if you ask them correctly and in the right order, will guarantee that you solve the case successfully and very efficiently. What we will cover today are the three major frameworks that are commonly used in case interviews, namely the profit framework, the business conditions framework, and the growth framework. We will briefly describe what they are and how to use them. And last but not least, we will discuss the scenarios where you need to use multiple frameworks at the same time and how you would stagger these frameworks one on top of the other to efficiently solve the case. The first framework is actually the most common framework that is used in case interviews, called the profit framework. And it applies to the world of questions where you are dealing with a scenario where the company needs to solve problems surrounding its revenues, its costs, or a combination of both. Within the profit framework, profit equals revenue minus cost. And the revenue that you get as a company is, you can think about it as the price that you charge per unit of product or per unit of service, multiplied by the number of products or the number of services sold. The cost side associated with providing that product or service can be broken down into the number of units sold multiplied the cost per unit. This framework seems quite simple, but it's actually most commonly used in case interviews. And basically, if you can drill down quantitatively into the specifics within the profit framework on the price that you're charging, the number of products you are selling, as well as the cost incurred per product provided, then you can find out what is the fundamental problem behind a company and its profits. So actually, as I show in this slide, there is an alternate way of presenting the profit framework that is equally as efficient, which is that instead of writing out profit equals revenue minus cost, another way of writing out profit is that profit equals the unit profit times the number of units of products or services that you provide. To segment the unit profit, then unit profit is the price that you charge minus the unit cost that is incurred. So both of these versions of the profit framework, this one as well as the one that was shown in the previous slide, are equally as effective in tackling the case. The second framework that I would like to discuss also shows up quite frequently in consulting case interviews, which is the business conditions framework, or the MCCCP framework. MCCCP or MCCCP here stands for market, customers, company, competitor, and product, which are the five major pillars in analyzing any given business. If you are able to dissect the inner details of these five pillars, you will be able to dissect the fundamental problem behind a business or a corporation and give a recommendation for it. I would not go into detail on the specific questions that you can ask within each of these five pillars, but to truly master the business conditions framework and to use it efficiently and fluently within a case interview, I recommend you to go deeper into the specific questions shown here and practice asking them in actual mock case interviews. The third framework is the growth framework, which is the framework that you use when you approach a question of what would you do to help grow a business or grow a corporation. To let a company grow, there are two ways of growth: organic growth and inorganic growth, where organic growth are ways to grow the company from within, from selling more products or offering new products. Inorganic growth are ways to grow the company from outside help, either merging with another company, acquiring another company, or potentially being acquired by another company, as well as joint ventures. In joint ventures, what happens is that you're still your own company, but then you roll out some new policies, some new strategies or products or services alongside with other companies as well. So actually, as we have gone through these three frameworks, depending on the complexity of the case, sometimes you will be able to solve the case using only one of the three frameworks. But usually as you go further along in the process of consulting recruiting, as you have your second or third round of interviews, or if you're interviewing with one of the most prestigious companies such as McKinsey, BCG, or Bain, many times using only one of the frameworks is not sufficient in solving the problem. So this is where you find yourself in a situation that you have to resort to using multiple frameworks together. 2 out of the 3, 3 out of the 3, or perhaps even more frameworks that are not covered in this video. You have to stagger them one on top of the other and use them efficiently in the right order to solve a very complex type of case. So here I would like to give you a more detailed example of how you would use the first and the second framework, the profit and the business conditions framework, together to solve the case. So the first thing that you do is you resort to the profit framework first and figure out exactly what is the reason behind the profit decline. So if you dig a little bit deeper into the layers of the issue tree, you can find out that profit might be decreasing because of one of the 3 major reasons. Quantitatively, perhaps because the price has decreased, the cost has increased, or the volume has decreased. Or perhaps the profit decreased because of a combination of these 3 scenarios. So after you finish this first step of finding out quantitatively what is the underlying reason of the profit decline, then you can go into the business conditions framework and ask qualitative questions on why specifically this business has experienced the decreasing price or the increasing cost. Just hypothetically, if you look at the very left, this very left column here, if the price of a product has decreased, some of the questions in the business conditions framework that you can ask are about our competition, our customers, our company, etc. Some of the questions might be, has a new competitor emerged that has made our price decrease because of a price war? Has our customers demanded that our price decrease? Or has our company decided to voluntarily decrease our price to try to boost up the volume? So to solve this problem, jointly with both the profit framework and the business conditions framework, fundamentally, as I've said, what you need to do is to first use the profit framework to find out quantitatively what is happening with the business before going into the business conditions framework second and asking questions with regard to the 5 pillars in the right sequence to most efficiently solve the case. So to wrap up, what I have covered today so far is only a preliminary introduction on frameworks in consulting case interviews and how to use them both individually and jointly. Of course, if you want more details on more types of frameworks to use in case interviews, as well as how to use them efficiently, I would recommend you to watch the sample training video as part of the Ace the Case program, where I will go into a lot more detail on these frameworks.